Summarization. So once again, this Neo router is advertising all these prefixes individually towards BT. BT is further advertising them towards Sprint, R5 and R6. R5 is receiving all these prefixes coming from BT as well as Sprint. One more thing that I would like to configure, I have to configure this R1 as a route reflector, right? So 150.1.5.1 route reflector client, never 150.1.6.1 route reflector client. So this time this R1 must have, all the prefixes available in its BGP table. Fine, it will get it. This R1 will get all these prefixes coming from R5 and R6. But now let's have a look at the BGP table of R5. You see it is receiving all these prefixes coming from Sprint US as well as BT, right? And all of them are coming individually, so that it will be advertising them towards its IBGP neighbor individually, right? That is why on R1 you can see that prefixes are coming from R5 as well as from R6 individually, right? You can move on R6, try to BGP. So yes, it is having all these prefixes in its BGP table. And now you can look at R1. R1 is receiving all these prefixes coming from R5 as well as R6 individually, right? Now what we want, actually, these customer edge routers are enough capable to hold that much number of prefixes in their BGP table, right? This is customer edge 1, customer edge 2. So these two devices are having very good hardware configuration, so there is no problem at all. But the problem is with R1. R1 is receiving prefixes coming from R5 as well as from R6. Now we can move back again on R1, and on R1 we can see that it is receiving all the prefixes individually. Now let's assume that R1 is not enough capable to hold or to store that much number of prefixes in its BGP table as well as routing table. So we decided to configure summarization on customer edge routers, so that these customer edge routers will start advertising only. You understand? So we can move on R5, and then we can say router BGP 65500, and then we can say aggregate address. Aggregate address is going to be 192.168.100.0 245.245.252, right?
Yes.
.0. And similarly we can configure R6 router BGP 65500, right? Aggregate address, then we can say 192.168.100.0 right? And you will see that this R1 is gonna to receive all these prefixes. Oh, this time you can see that it is receiving summary address, aggregate address from R5 as well as R6, but along with that it is still receiving all those prefixes individually, right? So if we want to force customer edge routers, you can look at the BGP table of customer edge, that is R5. So IP BGP, here you can see that this is 192.168.100.0/22. that is the prefix actually on /22, but it haven't suppressed all other prefixes in this summary address, right? It haven't suppressed, and that is why this is the only reason, so that it is advertising all prefixes towards its IBGP neighbor R1 individually along with this summary address. Now what can we say on R5? We can say router BGP 65500, that aggregate address, and then we can say summary only. Then move on R6, router BGP 65500, summary only. Once you will configure these commands on R5 and R6, then you will see that on R1 it will receive only and only summary address. And now if you move back again on R5, you can look at its BGP table itself. You will see that it will suppress all prefixes in this summary address. You see that it has suppressed all of them. As for suppressed means now it is not going to advertise them towards its IBGP, towards its neighbors. Meaning by suppressed means that it is not going to advertise them towards neighbor. Even you can look at here, so IP BGP 192.168.100.0 245.245.245.0, right? So you can see that advertised suppressed by an aggregate. Any problem?
IBGP and BGP.
For all types of neighbors, right? So it has suppressed it now, and now we can look at R1 that it is receiving only and only summary address from R5 as well as from R6. You can also look at the R6 BGP table. Yes, it has also suppressed all other prefixes in its summary address, in its aggregate address, right? Apart from that, now there is a problem, and the problem is that when we are receiving this summary address, we don't know the exact originating AS. It is looking like it is coming or it is originated from our own AS because it is not having any AS under AS path list. And this is a minor problem. The major problem is that R5 and R6, because they will start to advertise this summary address towards all other neighbors, right? So you can get it back onto BT itself. So IPBCP, you can see that this summary address is coming from this summary address is coming from R5, from R6, from Sprint, and then this BT will advertise it towards New York itself. New York was having all these prefixes individually, and it has got this summary address back into its BGP table, along with that in its routing table. So there can be a routing loop. Now there can be a routing loop, right? So due to this problem, now there can be a routing loop because this summary address was generated. Of course, but you know, sometime what will happen, that let's say that 100.0 has gone down. This 100.0 has gone down on New York router. It will start, it will stop to advertising this prefix, this individual prefix towards BT. But still, let's say that on Sprint US we want it to reach 100.0. From where it is getting this summary address? From R5. So it will start sending this traffic towards R5. Means for time being, there can be a routing loop because BGP converges slowly. It is possible to prove it, but it will take some, it will take so long time to do that. Otherwise, I can perform it. We can see that in between New York router and BT, packet will start revolving, and there will be a routing loop due to this summary address only. And you can look at here that, of course, this summary address must not come back to British Telecom. Of course, it must not come back to British Telecom. It's not it. So to solve this problem, now on R5, along with this command has we configured here router. One more thing that I would like to show you here on R5 192.168. This is summary address, right? This is summary address 252.0. What is it saying? Atomic aggregate. Right now there is atomic aggregate, but router BGP 65500, as you configured this summary address with summary only, along with that say AS set. Along with this key, along with summary address, aggregate address summary only, use AS set keyword. Once you will use this AS set keyword, move on R6 as well and configure it. Router BGP 65500, say AS set. Right. Once you will configure this AS set keyword, now you will see on R1 it have started to get a complete information, right? Now look at here, show IPBGP. Right? Aggregated by 6, aggregated by 5, because it is receiving only and only aggregate address. And now there is no atomic aggregate. Even you can look at R5. Previously it was showing me atomic aggregate, but this time it will not show you atomic aggregate. You know why? Because this time it is having all the information. It has copied AS path list into aggregate address itself.
तो अभी BGP टेबल में उसका अपना AS शो करेगा.
Of course. So whenever R5 and R6 will advertise this aggregate address back to BT, BT will find its own AS in received prefix, so it will simply discard it. You can have a look at BT table. Previously it was coming, but this time there is no summary address. Similarly, on New York router, previously it was coming right up to New York router. There is no route, and even that prefix is not available in its BGP table.
We can do summarization on the customer edge only, or
Anywhere in BGP you can configure aggregation anywhere, but that was the appropriate place, right, for us to configure summarization in perspective of customer. However, you could define the summarization at the end of New York router as well, right?
no, means somewhere in the enterprise. Means we can do summarization anywhere.
Anyway, fine. Then after it, you see on R1 we are getting this prefix. It's coming with origin code I. Local preference is 100. Metric is this, weight and all, right? It is coming with some attributes. After it, you know, now for R1, its best path is via R5. Swipe it out BGP. So complete traffic will be forwarded into the direction of R5 for all prefixes, right? I mean, for this entire subnet. What I want that R6, actually I want that R1 should forward traffic towards 103, this 103 subnet via R6 itself. So for that purpose, it is necessary for R1 to receive this 103 on /24, right, on /24, because you see R6 is receiving all those prefixes on /24. So what I want that R1 should send traffic for 103 subnet via R6 only, whereas right now it is forwarding traffic via R5 only, but only for that prefix, that particular prefix 103, it should send traffic into the direction of R6. It should preferred path via R6. Right? How can we achieve that? So in BGP we are having a terminology that is called suppress map. That is called suppress map. Right now you can look at R6. It has suppressed all those prefixes which are belonging to this aggregate address, right? It has suppressed all those prefixes which are belonging to this aggregate address. But with using suppress map, we can tell to this router, we can tell to BGP that do not suppress all, suppress only these prefixes, suppress only these prefixes. So to tell BGP, we can use suppress map. That is why its name is suppress map. So this time we just wanted to suppress 100, 101 and 102, right? So I'll be saying access list 1 permit 192.168 100.00.0.1.255. 100 and 101 will come in it, right? Then access list 1 permit 192.168 102.0, and I will call it individual because I wanted to match 100, 101 and 102, not 103. So I wanted to suppress only these three prefixes, and then I'll create one route map. Let's say its name is sup permit 10 match IP address 1. Now you can ask me that why are we not giving any other statement for this route map? Because I'm not gonna to create, I'm not gonna to put any other statement for this
Match only.
route map. For this route map. However, only those prefixes will match this with this statement of route map which are matching with this ACL1. And usually I taught you that you have to allow all others as well, right? But this time you are not going to apply this route map for a particular neighbor. See, it will be depending on that where are you applying or where you are applying this route map, right? So this time we are not going to apply this route map for a neighbor. We are not going to apply it for neighbor. If we are applying this route map for neighbor, then we have to be very careful that okay, if we have matched all these prefixes, we have set this, then we have to allow all others as well, right? So this time I'm not gonna to, I'm not going to I'm not going to apply this route map for a specific neighbor, right? So what will I do now? You see, it's a router BGP 65500. I used aggregate address, right? You remember ASAT, and then after I can use suppress map, and then name is what? Just press enter. Suppress map is not a suppress map. Ultimately, it is a route map. And this time I didn't apply it for neighbor. I just used this route map along with aggregate address. Just to tell, okay, you will be suppressing only these prefixes, not all. By default, it was suppressing all those prefixes which were belonging to that aggregate address. But this time it will suppress only those prefixes which will be matching with this statement, with this ACL, right? So this time you can see do show IP BGP. I'm on R6, right? So it is not gonna to suppress this 103. Apart from 103, it has suppressed all others. It has suppressed 100, 101, 102, but it haven't suppressed 103. You can look at R1, check show IP BGP, check it out. 103 is coming from R6 only, not from R5. This 103 on /24 is coming from, and that is the only path available onto R1 now, right? So whenever R1 will transmit traffic towards 103, it will forward traffic into the direction of R6 based on longest prefix match. However, it can also reach this 103 via R5 as well, because via R5 it is receiving aggregate address, right? But based on longest prefix match, the best path to reach 103 subnet will be via R6. Understood now? Right? So this is the uses of suppress map in BGP. So with the help of suppress map, you will be telling to your BGP that okay, suppress only these prefixes, do not suppress all into your aggregate address. Fine. After it, this is all about suppress map. I'm moving on R6 now, and I'm gonna remove it now. Do show run pipe section router BGP. Entire command has been removed from here, so I'll be configuring this this aggregate address without suppress map, right? So once again you will see that it will start suppressing all of them. check it out. And once again R1 will be receiving only and only aggregate address from both of them, from R5 as well as from R6. Fine, this is all about the suppress map. Now let's talk about attribute map. Let's talk about attribute map. Along with aggregation, in BGP you can also use attribute map to modify attributes of your aggregate address. Right now you can see that it has copied your your attributes as it is, right? Origin code is I and all these things, right? So if you wanna modify attributes for aggregate address, then you will be using attribute map, right? For an example, I just wanted that R1 should define its best path via R6. So let's define origin code via R5 as question mark, so that it will start preferring via R6. So let's move on R5 now. And what can we say? We can say route map name is like attribute map commit 10. By default match all is there. You just need to say set origin incomplete. It's very simple. Set origin incomplete. Now say router BGP 65500. Right? Along with aggregate address, like you said, a set, along with that say attribute map, and then your route map name, that is attribute. Very simple. Now you see do show IP BGP, check it out. Now what is this? Question mark. And that is why now for R1 its best path will become via. So this is the purpose of having attribute map in BGP. You can simply modify your attributes, but remember there are limitations. It does not mean that you can modify any attribute. No, you cannot modify AS path list, right? You can modify local preference, you can modify this origin code, not all the attributes, right? So basically you will be using this attribute map just to modify attributes of your aggregate address, right? Then after attribute map, there is another map that is called advertise map. That is called advertise map. Sometime what happens, actually you will be getting uses of attribute map, not attribute map, actually advertise map. Actually you will find advertise map configured in your network in a rarest case, but of course you can get it. This option is there in BGP, right? For an example, this is your customer edge router, and this customer edge router is receiving some prefixes coming from ISP1 and some coming from ISP2, and then it is giving to it any other neighbor. Let's say this is provider, this is internal router, right? There is BGP peering, right? Let's say that 100.1.1.0/24 to 100.1.3.0/24. These prefixes are coming from ISP1 to customer edge 1, and then from 100 100.1.4.0/24 to 100.1. Yes, 100.7.0/24. These prefixes are coming from ISP2, and ISP1 is running AS10 and ISP2 is running AS20. Right. Now, whenever on customer H router, you will be configuring aggregate address for all of them. So you will be configuring what? 100.1.0.0/ and you will be saying AS set keyword, right? You will be configuring AS set. Once you will configure AS set keyword on customer H router, you will see it will start to include AS10 as well as 20 in this summary address, because some prefixes are coming from AS10 and some of them are coming from AS20. So in aggregate address, it will prepend, or it will include actually AS10 as well as AS20. So whenever you will find that aggregate address in the BGP table of this router, it will be something like this: 100.1.0/21, and to reach it you have to cross AS20 as well as 10, something like this. But now what I want, that whenever this customer edge router will generate this aggregate address, it should include AS10 only, not 20. It should include only AS10, not AS20. I want to hide AS20. I don't want to tell anyone about AS20. So what I want, that in aggregate address it should include AS10 only, not AS20. So that can be achieved with the help of advertise map. So basically advertise map will instruct BGP that from which prefixes it has to copy attributes into its aggregate address. Advertise map will be in use to tell BGP that from which prefixes it should copy attributes into aggregate address. So that is the only thing, or that is the only purpose of having advertise map. Any problem? So now I'm gonna to draw a diagram in that manner only, right? So I'll move on sprint US now, and on sprint US I'm gonna to create some loopbacks. Loopback 1 like 100.1.1, loopback 2 it's having like 100.1.2.1, loopback 3 is having like 3.1, router BGP 6.6.2.1.5.4.5, and network 100.1.0. mask is going to be three 5500 network 100.1.4.0 mask Now you see, I'm going to shut down this link 3 on R6, that is serial 1 by 0. So link 1 and 2 are there. Now R5 will be receiving these prefixes. So I BGP, let me show you. These hundreds prefixes are coming from both of them. Do one thing on BT. Shut down. I have broken this reachability between them, right? So this time you will see that R5 will be receiving some prefixes in hundreds network coming from take some long, it takes a long time. Clear IP BGP. See, hundreds prefixes. 4567 is coming from BT. These prefixes are coming from BT, and first three prefixes will come from Sprint with the different AS. Just wait. You see, first three prefixes are coming from AS21545 and last four prefixes are coming from 35500. Now you do one thing, configure aggregation for hundreds prefixes, right? So say router BGP 65500, aggregate address 100.1.0.0, 245.252, not 252 actually, 248.0, and then you will be saying summary only AS. Do show IP BGP, it will aggregate, it will suppress all of them, right? And it has copied 21545 as well as 35500. You can look at now R1. It is receiving that aggregate address. You can open it. You understand? Like 100.1.0.0. So received from this, and it is having these. And this time this bracket has changed, right? Which specifies here that some of them are coming from here and some of them are coming from this AS. Right? Fine. But this time what I want, that when we will configure aggregation on R5, it should copy only 21545 in the AS path list of aggregate address. It should copy only 21545 in the AS path list of aggregate address. So to achieve this task here, we are having advertise map. So you do one thing, do show IP access list, check it out. No access list 10 permit. What is that? We wanted to copy from first three prefixes, right? So I'll be saying 100.1.0.0.0.0.3.255, right? And then I'll be creating route map, right? Route map name is advert. That's fine. Permit 10. Match IP address what? 10. That's it. I just wanted to copy attributes from these prefixes only, right? Now what will I say? Router BGP 65500 and then call your aggregate address now. And along with that say advertise map. And its name is advert. Now you look at the BGP table. This is your aggregate address. It does not have now 35500. Right? So it's all up to you that what do you want to do with your aggregate address. All of the options are available during configuration of aggregation in BGP, right? Now problem, okay, fine, that's fine, whatever we did till now. This is the uses of advertise map. I'm going to remove it now, and that's fine. I will move on R6 S1 by 0, now shut down. It will come up on BT on F0 by 1. I will be saying no shutdown, right? This link will also come up. You know, one another keyword is also there, that is called unsuppressed map. Unsuppressed map. See, a suppressed map was configured globally along with aggregate address. You remember, we configured suppressed map along with aggregate address globally, right, in router mode. And if we do not see, if we are saying that okay, we want to suppress only these things and all others will be advertised individually, that is fine with suppressed map. But if we are saying that I just want this prefix to be advertised individually and all others must be suppressed, at that moment you have to match all prefixes with suppressed map. To whom you want to suppress, you have to match all those prefixes, right, in suppressed map. So it will be bit confusing and it will be, you know, I mean your configuration will be lengthy, because I just want to unsuppress only one prefix, right? So it will be better to use unsuppressed map. And one more thing, one problem is also there with using suppressed map. Suppressed map is applied for all neighbors, whereas unsuppressed map will be applicable only for a specific neighbor. Suppressed map is applicable or is applied for all neighbors, right? Because you configured suppressed map along with your aggregate address globally, right? Whereas unsuppressed map will be configured per neighbor basis. Just like, once again, this R1 is receiving only and only summary address to IPBGP. Check it out in terms of 192's prefixes, right? Okay, let me do one thing. I'm on Sprint US now. So it will be receiving only and only summary address. Just wait for a moment. BGP will take some time. I said that it converts slowly. Fine. It is receiving only the summary address. Right? From R6, I just wanted that R6 must not suppress 103 prefix or 102 prefix. Let's say I don't want to suppress 102 on R6, so that R6 will start advertising this 102 towards R1 individually, right? So previously I used suppress map to achieve that, but you know, if you remember, in suppress map I called all those prefixes to whom I wanted to suppress. All others were unsuppressed automatically. But with using unsuppressed, we can specify only that specific prefix to whom I want to unsuppressed. And that will be applied for a specific neighbor, not for all neighbors. So that is an advantage of configuring unsuppressed map over suppressed map. So you do one thing now on R6. Do show IP BGP, check it out. Access list 15, permit 192.168.102.0 and its wildcard mask. Say route map, unsub, permit, match IP address, just come outside, router BGP 65500, neighbor 150.1. Sorry, 1 dot Now you see unsuppressed map. You will be applied this unsuppressed map for a specific neighbor, and name is, and there is only one direction, out. If you are applying unsuppressed map, by default its direction will be out automatically. You cannot change it, right? So in this way you will be applying it. Once you will apply it, look at R1, clear IP BGP star. This is the uses of unsuppressed. However, if you look at the BGP table of R6, it will show you that all of them are suppressing, including one or two. But in actual, it is not. When it is giving this prefix to R1, if it was having an IBGP peering with any other, like with R2 or with R3, with all those routers as well, and if you do not configure that unsuppressed map for those neighbors, then you will see that over there on those neighbors you will find only and only aggregated address. So this is the uses of unsuppressed map. So you have covered now all the maps available in available in aggregation, right? BGP aggregation. You see router BGP 65500 and summary address. You don't have anything else now. You see. We have covered all of the maps. Right? That's the only thing. Aggregation is completed now. After completing this aggregation, let's talk about conditional route advertisement. Conditional route advertisement in BGP, right? Sometimes what happens in BGP, let's say this is ISP1, ISP2, and this is customer edge router. This is my primary ISP. This is secondary. What I want, that if primary link is up, then the remote users traffic must get enter into customer's network via primary link only. If this link is up, I'm talking about return traffic. I'm talking about return traffic, reverse traffic, that is getting entered into the network of customer, right? That is forwarded by, yes, incoming traffic. So incoming traffic must get enter into the customer's network via primary link only. How will you get ensure it? How will you ensure it that okay, it will be using only primary as path preparation while you are advertising prefixes towards ISPs, but it does not provide you 100% guarantee for that, right? Here we can configure some, yes, we can achieve it with the help of AS path preparation as well, but apart from that we are having 100% valid solution for it or secure solution for it, that is conditional route advertisement. What can we do? We can configure a condition on customer edge router that if my primary link is up, till that this customer edge router must not advertise this prefix, this lane network via secondary link towards ISP2. And if it is not advertising this prefix towards ISP2, of course, traffic will never get enter into customer's network via secondary link, because you are not providing your lane networks information to your ISP via secondary link.
So are we talking about ISL?
And in case if primary goes down, then we have to configure this condition on customer edge router that now it must start advertising this prefix via secondary link as well, so that In case of failure of primary link, now remote users should start get reach this lane network of customer via secondary link. So in this manner, you have to put your conditional route advertisement. This is called conditional route advertisement. So you have to put this condition on this customized router that if primary link is up, then till then customer edge must not advertise its lane network via secondary link. Once primary will go down, it should start advertising these prefixes, right? Have you understood it? So in such scenarios, might be you will require to configure conditional route advertisement. Got it? Apart from that, you can also have some other conditions.
Time-based conditions or
Not time-based. It's not possible to configure time-based conditions in BGP. Not in any protocol. There is nothing like time-based condition in any routing protocol. This is ISP, right? This is customer edge router. Some prefixes are coming from R1, R2, and R3 is also having its own lane and advertising them towards ISP. Now let's say that R3 has lost connectivity with R2. So we just want that if R3 is not receiving anything coming from R1 and R2, then it should not advertise anything towards ISP. It should not advertise anything towards ISP. So we can also put this type of condition as well. Not even its own lane network, right? That type of condition we can configure here in BGP. That in case, see, R1 is giving its information to R2, R2 is giving it to R3, and R3 is also having its own lane, and then R3 is advertising all those prefixes towards ISP. Now, in case if R2 and R3 have lost their connectivity, have lost their reachability, right? R3 will stop receiving prefixes coming from R2. And in that case, in that condition, I want that R3 should stop to advertise everything towards ISP. That's what I want. So you can achieve these things by configuring conditional route advertisement. I'm gonna to do it now. I'm going to shut down this F0 by 1. So I'll move on BT router BGP 35500 neighbor 101, and you can also use this command in BGP, right, to shut down any neighbor. I've shut down this neighbor. So right now BT is receiving all these 192 prefixes coming from New York router and advertising them towards R5 as well as R6. So first of all, what I will configure that if 100.0 prefix is there, okay, in reverse manner, if 100.0 is not there, let's say 100.0 is not there in its BGP table, I just want you to track this prefix now. If 100.0 is not there, then then BT must not advertise anything towards R5 as well as R6 if 100.0 is not there, right? As I said that if you are having two different ISPs, ISP1, ISP2, you understand, and this is customer as, let's perform this practical in this manner, right? It is having some prefixes over here. So what I want, this is your primary and this is your secondary. So if this link will go down, then of course customer edge will stop receiving some prefixes coming from ISP1, right? So we can track those prefixes, that if those prefixes are available, till that customer edge must not advertise anything towards ISP. But if those are not available, then only it should advertise, right? So let's do this practical in this manner first of all. If prefixes are coming, let's say 100.0 is coming from ISP1 on customer edge router, right? And if this 100.0 is there, then it should not advertise anything towards this ISP2. So in this condition, what I'm gonna to perform to prove this thing, that if BT is receiving 100.0 from Neo router, till that it should not advertise anything towards R5 and R6. We can achieve it. You see, go to BT. I have to create two prefix lists. First, or not two prefix lists, I will require to create only one prefix list, IP prefix list, condition, right? Condition. If 100.0 is available, right, it should not advertise anything. So condition permit 192.168.100.0. Sorry, here it will be taking slash, right? I've created this prefix list with the name of condition, and then I'll create one route map with the name of condition, right? Not condition. First of all, let's say condition. Fine. Condition permit match IP address prefix list name was condition. Fine. Create one other route map. I want to advertise all these prefixes, so its name is advertise. Permit match all is by default there, so it will be applicable for all prefixes now, right? Now go to router BGP 65500. Sorry, it is using 355 because we are on BT, right? Public router. Neighbor 201.1.100.100.6, and route map name is, sorry, advertise map. Advertise map name was, I want to advertise all prefixes, but when 100 dot prefix is not available, right? So here two options are there, exist or non-exist. So when I want to advertise them, when they do not exist, right? When 100.0 does not exist, so I'll be saying non-exist map, and then your condition, I mean your route map name, that was condition, right? So the route map name was condition. This is. So now it will advertise all those prefixes towards this neighbor which are permitted in route map advertise, but when that prefix does not exist which is matched in this route map condition, and in condition we matched only 100.0. This time we took non-exist map, right? Similarly, I will apply it for neighbor 200, 105, 100.5 and advertise map, that was advertise itself, non-exist map, and that was condition. Do clear IP BGP star out. I have applied show run pipe section router BGP. Right? Move on R5 now. Check BGP table. Is there anything? Move on R6. Check BGP table. Is there anything? Is it receiving anything from BT? Now to prove it, I will move on Neo router. I'll shut down loopback 1 because 100.0 was configured on this loopback of Neo router, right? And now Neo router will stop advertising this prefix towards BT. Check it out. Is there any 100.0 now? And if 100.0 is not there, then it is start to advertise all these prefixes towards R5 as well as R6. Move on R5. Check show IP BGP. Just wait for a moment. R5, R6. And once again move back on Neo router. Loop back once, say no shutdown. And once again you will see that R5 and R6 will stop receiving anything from there. Just wait for a moment. Because the condition was that if it is present, then do not advertise. If it is not present, then only advertise. Right? You can also take reverse action. You could also say that if 100.0 is available in its BGP table, then only advertise.
Exist map.
For that purpose, you will be taking exist map. Router BGP 35500 to show run pipe section router. Route maps will remain same, right? You just need to change the keyword exist map or non-exist map, right? So just remove it from here and also remove it from here. And then say neighbor 201 100 100.6 advertise map, and that was advertise, and then say exist map, and that is condition. Similarly apply it for neighbor 200 105 and 100 dot, right? Do show run pipe section router. Fine. So IP BGP right now 100 is there, so it must start advertising all these prefixes towards R5 and R6. It is receiving all of them, right? But in case if now if you shut down this loop back, it will stop advertising it towards BT. Now BT will not be having this 100 dot prefix, right? Once it will not have it in its local BGP table, it will stop advertising everything towards R5 and R6. Wait for a moment, it will update it very soon. Done. So this is called conditional route advertisement, right? After conditional route advertisement, now let's go for conditional route injection. Conditional route injection. So first of all, remove it from there. Conditional route injection. Fine. Conditional route injection is similar to unsuppressed map. Is same as unsuppressed map. But the main difference is that unsuppressed map can be configured only that router where you configured aggregation. Unsuppressed map can be configured only that router where you configured aggregation. right? So remember, unsuppressed map can be configured only on that router where you configured aggregation. Now my task is something like this. For an example, I'm gonna remove aggregation from R5. I've removed it, right? So on R1 you will be receiving all these prefixes individually, and let's move back again on your router. No shutdown. On R1 you must get it now 100.0 available, right? Fine. This time you decided to configure aggregation on Neo router itself. Router BGP 8127 aggregate address. Fine. So you will be receiving only and only aggregate address. On BT only aggregate address. Check it out. On others only aggregate address. Now BT is receiving this prefix from Neo router, and that is aggregate address. BT is having one customer, and this customer is Network Bulls. Network Bulls asked BT to provide only this prefix, only this prefix, not everything. But by default BT is receiving only aggregate address. It will be advertising aggregate address towards it. But requirement is 101 only. Now on BT we cannot configure unsuppressed map because we didn't configure aggregation. Yes, you can configure unsuppressed map only on Neo router because you configured aggregation, but this time we do not have the access of Neo router. Now BT wants to advertise only this 101 towards R5 and R6. Are you getting my point? So for that purpose here we are having conditional route injection.
So it's also on per neighbor basis. It's also on per neighbor basis.
No, it's not per neighbor basis. It will be applicable for all neighbors. But later on we can perform filtering and all, right? Route filtering and everything. Are you getting my point? So I'll be doing it on R6 itself and for R1, right? We can see it on R6. So let's move on R6 and let's configure it now. Show IP access list. Is there any ACL? Yes. No access list. No access list. Update. Show route map. No route map. Name is unsub. And show route. No. Do show IP BGP. Check it out. It's receiving this aggregate address. And we have to inject now 101. That is part of, remember you can inject only that prefix that is part of your aggregate address, right? Even you can inject 101/26 as well. 101.0/26. Whatever you want you can do. Right? Let's do it now. Here you will require to create again multiple prefix list, multiple route maps, and I will be allocating their name as per their uses, right? IP prefix list. I want to inject something. permit what? Any problem? Fine. I wanna create another prefix list. It should inject this prefix when it is receiving this aggregate address. If it is not receiving this aggregate address, then it must not inject this prefix. Is not it? So we have to put condition as well. IP prefix list condition permit what? Slash and it is receiving this prefix from a particular source. Which source? I'm on R6. R6 is receiving from BT, right? So I have to create one prefix list to specify our source as well, right? So IP prefix list, and this time it is SRC source, right? Permit, and that is, tell me, 201 100 100.1 slash. This is my source. Now create a route map with the name of inject permit set. This time you will be saying set because you want to inject it, right? So you are not going to match it, you are going to set it now because you want to create it, right? So you will be saying set IP address prefix list, and it was, I wanted to inject it, right? Now route map, another route map for condition permit match IP address prefix list. I wanna match this condition, right? That this prefix should be there, right? Then match
Source type.
Not source type. I match IP route source, and then prefix list, and I created prefix list with name of SRC. That was this one, right? In the same route map I have called it, right? These both conditions must match, then only it will be injecting that prefix. First it must, you see, first it must have that aggregate address, and it must receive that aggregate address from that particular source only. Then only it will inject that prefix, right? So I have created these two route maps now. Clear? And then after, go to BGP, router BGP 65500. Say BGP inject. What do you want to inject? That for that purpose you created a
Inject
route map. That was inject itself. Exist map. There is no non-exist map, right? Exist map. That was a created route map with the name of condition. Done. Right? So clear IP BGP start. Hard reset. Do show IP BGP. right? Although it is not given by BT, even you can look at the BT's BGP table, it is not present in the BGP table of BT. However, it is given from R5, because you know what is happening, R6 is giving it to R1, R1 is giving it back to R5, and R5 is giving it to BT. That is why it is available on BT. You see. Then after, you must have that command as well, copy, to avoid that situation. Once you will say copy attribute, then BT will not accept it even from R5 as well. Still it have not copied. Yes, it has copied now all attributes, right? Once it will copy them, then you will never ever get it on BT. Check it out.
पहले वो AS path लेके नहीं जा रहा, attribute copy attribute का वो AS path.
Exactly. You see now, right? It has copied those attributes. And before that, it was not having those attributes. Because it is injected by you manually, it is kind of redistributed prefix, right? But this time it has copied and it was having I in this summary address, in this aggregate address, right? So this is the uses of conditional route injection, right? Fine. After it, let's start communities.
सर 5 मिनट का ब्रेक ले लें, ये तो ऊपर से जाएगा
Break, यार. Fine. So let's start communities now. Communities are same as tagging in OSPF and EICRP. Like you were adding tag values in OSPF and EICRP and RIP. In BGP we are calling them as a community. And communities are optional transitive attribute, right? By default, BGP strips communities from its outgoing updates. By default, BGP will strip communities from its outgoing updates. This is the default behavior of BGP, right? Communities will be used in BGP to match your prefixes only. Just like in OSPF and EICRP, we were using that tag value to match prefixes. Similarly, in BGP, you will be using communities to match your prefixes, and then after you can use those prefixes. I mean, like for an example, you want to perform path manipulation or you want to perform route filtering, right? For anything you can use these communities, because communities will be used to match your prefixes, and then after you can take any action. Till now we are using either ACL prefix list to match prefixes, right? But now if we are using communities, then we can use these communities to match our prefixes, right? And these are optional transitive attributes. Then after it we can see that it is a 32 bits long value. which means 1 to 4.2 billions. You can represent it in decimal, but now they are also having new format to represent your communities, that is like 1:2, I mean 16 bits colon 16 bits. In this format, I mean this is the new format to represent your communities, right? Fine. If you talk about the communities, we are having two types of communities. Extended communities will be used by BGP by default. You are not going to learn anything about extended community. Actually, the main purpose of having extended community in BGP is with MPLS and all those stuff. Not here, right? So here I will not be talking anything about extended community. It will be added by BGP automatically, right? Even you will not require to add extended community by yourself, I mean statically. Standard, which means that you will be talking about, I mean we will be talking about standard communities only, right? Now in standard communities you have two things. One is well-known communities or predefined communities. You can call them predefined communities, and they are like not advertise, I think that not advertise or no advertise, something like that, right? Then another thing is no export, local AS, internet. These communities are predefined communities, right? Or I mean these are defined by their names. However, you can allocate any name, sorry, any number in a standard community, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in decimals or in the format, in new format as well, right? So we will be using standard communities. These are predefined communities. ठीक है, अब मैं आगे खड़ा नहीं रहा, तुम पढ़ के आओ पहले कम्युनिटीज। ये थोड़ा सा बुक तो होगी ना सभी के पास में? हाँ, ये मिल जाएगी आजाद, ये पढ़ के आओ थोड़ा सा, अच्छा रहेगा। नहीं तो ये